Hey guys, is my camera on? Yeah, don't mind this angle. I've got my camera on a tripod and it's probably looking right up my nostrils. But anyway, so I'm going to make a video today about Ellie being bilingual because a lot of you have been asking questions about that. My pants are falling down. So, I haven't really thought this video out very much, so I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants. So forgive me, but anyway, here we go. So, raising Ellie bilingual was not really I didn't put any thought into it. I wasn't like, okay, I'm going to raise Ellie bilingual and all this and that. To me, it was just an obvious choice because I speak English as my primary language, and I believe that English is my heart language. That's what I like to call it, because no matter how well you speak Japanese, if you grew up speaking English, I feel like you communicate better that way. When I say I love you in English, I feel it stronger than when I say it in Japanese. So obviously when I raise my child, I want them to be able to feel my emotions and understand me. So, and not to mention, it's a pain in the ass speaking Japanese when you don't speak it like a native. It's just hard work. So obviously I chose the easy route, my native language. And that wasn't a problem for me. I didn't buy any books about raising Ellie bilingual. I just kind of do what I usually do, fly by the seat of my pants. And it worked out pretty well. So I was a housewife for 2 years. I spent all that time with Ellie. I spoke English to her every day, talk a lot, as you can probably tell. And I think that Ellie has been blessed with the gift of gab, as well as I was when I was little. So I think it was natural for her to pick up on English. And she started speaking early. From as early as like 8 or 9 months, she was saying 9 or 10 words. By 1, she was already saying simple things like all done. And anyway, so where was I? Anyway, I always thought people in other countries, for example, my old roommate, she was from Kazakhstan, and she spoke Russian, Kazakh, English, and there's all these different dialects in Kazakhstan and in Russia, I guess. So people there just learn 3 or 4 languages, and that's normal. And so why do we make such a big deal out of kids being bilingual? I think a lot of kids are bilingual. It's a great thing to have, but it's really not that big of a deal. I mean, you speak your language to your kid and they grow up speaking it. I mean, for the most part. Okay, so everyone has these different opinions on, okay, you're raising your kid bilingual. For example, Suki speaks Japanese, I speak English, and he does not speak English. Not at all, pretty much. I mean, hi, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. That's about it. And a lot of studies say that one parent should speak only Japanese to the child, and one other parent should only speak English to the child. And they have the best chance of succeeding in both languages that way. And the parent that only speaks English should never speak Japanese to the child. I think that it's a case-by-case scenario. I'm sure that's true for some families, for some kids with certain personalities, but for Ellie, I never really followed that rule. I speak English to her 95% of the time, but when I'm in front of Suki with Ellie, a lot of the time I speak Japanese to her because, 1, I want Suki to know what I'm saying to her, and 2, I feel like her English is so strong anyway that sometimes it's good for her to hear a little bit more Japanese from both of her parents, especially us communicating together in Japanese as a family. Okay, going back, she's almost 4 now. When she was 2, she was in daycare full-time, and she's still in daycare full-time, but she gets out at 4. She was in daycare from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, when I was working full-time and Suki was working full-time. And that was at a time where she spoke English pretty well, but obviously not the level she speaks it now. And she was in daycare so much that at that point in time, Japanese was her primary language. She still spoke English really well, but she would play in Japanese and she would talk to herself in Japanese. Then we took a trip to America, and I think that was like the last straw in making her English the stronger one, because as soon as we went to America, her English just excelled, like tons, leaps and bounds. And ever since then, she's never switched back to Japanese as her primary language. She's always preferred English, and she's better at English. And right now, I'd say her English level is almost about the same as other kids her age in America. She can speak really well in English. She watches TV in English. We read books in English. She pretty much has no problem understanding things that are geared towards 4-year-olds English level. As far as Japanese goes, I'd say her Japanese is probably about 2.5-year-old Japanese. She's not really, we spent 3 months in America, and she kind of chose not to speak Japanese at all while we were there. And she didn't forget it. She just switched her brain. I'd ask her, can you speak Japanese? She'd say, no, we're in America now, I speak English now. And so that's fine. That's how her brain works. We came back here, no problem. Brain switched Japanese back on again. And yeah, she has gaps in her Japanese. She hasn't been speaking it as much as she has English, but she's doing fine. She understands everything at daycare. She might be a little bit slower at understanding the directions, but her teachers understand that, and they're patient with her, and she gets it, and she learns, and her Japanese is improving. I don't have any concerns about it because we live in Japan, and she'll grow up with it all around her, and TV and news and music and friends, so obviously her Japanese will be fine. If we ever move back to the States, that's another issue, but she always has her dad to talk to, and I'm not worried about it. If anything, I'm really glad that she has a solid English foundation because obviously we're in Japan and she has less exposure to English, so I'm really glad that right now English is her primary language. Okay. What else did I want to say? Okay, so another funny, interesting thing is that I obviously don't speak Japanese like a native person. For example, if I don't know how to say something like a noun or an adjective or a noun, oh my god, I'm forgetting English. Anything. If I, for example, don't know how to say, I do know how to say this, but I wiped my hand on the towel. Te o taoru ni fukimashita. I didn't know the verb for wipe. I could say taoru o sukaimashita. I used the towel. So if there's a verb that I don't know, or an adjective that I don't know, or a noun that I don't know, I can replace it with something that I do know. Easy as that. Ellie does that same thing. She kind of speaks Japanese like a foreigner, like me. And a lot of people have told me that. They say, Ellie's Japanese is cute. She sounds a lot like you. She kind of talks with an accent, and I've noticed that she will kind of skirt around things that she doesn't know how to say, and she'll add in words that she does know. So, for example, the other day, we went to the bank, and she wanted to bring her wallet with her. She left it at home and was crying. And I said, okay, it's no big deal. We'll get it when we get home. Here's 100 yen. You can hold this instead. Okay, she ran into some friends at the bank. She wanted to tell them what happened. So she said, because she was holding money. So to her other friends who are the same age as her, she says, 財布忘れたから, she didn't know how to say, but so my mom gave me 100 yen. So she said, 新しいお金, new money. So I don't think her friends really gathered the story. I knew what she was talking about, and I could tell that she was choosing to describe her story in a way that she could. Yeah, that's just something interesting, that she doesn't really speak Japanese like a Japanese person. She speaks Japanese the way I speak Japanese. Probably because I do most of the talking. She does talk with her dad, but I talk a lot. Can't be helped. She hears me speak Japanese a lot, so. Anyway, I guess that's all. If you guys have any questions or advice,